And I am going to share with everyone that we're happy that you are here with our special guest, Janie Gross. We recognize that the Clay Studio stands on the indigenous territory known as Lenapehoking, the traditional homelands of the Lenni Lenape people. We would like to take a moment to reflect on the role of the Lenape as past, present, and future stewards of the land, and the role of all of us to join in their tradition of respect and caring for the land and each other. Thank you. I'm Jennifer Swilling. I'm the curator and director of artistic programs here at the Clay Studio. We're grateful that you're all joining us. I will also say that we are excited to be able to present these programs for free. So consider maybe making a donation if you're interested in helping us continue that. Good time for a sneeze. Anyway, and I'm going to introduce Janie. Janie Gross is a multidisciplinary artist specializing in graphic design, photographic image making, and ceramics. A cum laude graduate of Moore College of Art and Design, Janie draws inspiration from nature's rhythmic patterns and fleeting moments, with repetition fostering a calming effect in her work. Janie authored The Afterlife of Flowers, a globally distributed book, and has created licensed products sold at major retailers. She pioneered flower pressing courses at Longwood Gardens and appeared on Martha Stewart Living TV. That we're going to hear more about all of these things. Her art is part of the permanent collection at the Philadelphia Museum of Art's executive offices, and she is an associate artist at the Clay Studio. And that was one of the reasons that we're excited that Janie is here, and also because we're celebrating the fact that she has a solo exhibition right now at Moore College of Art. Congratulations. So I'm going to start with my question that I ask everyone. How and why did you make the brave decision to make your life in art?
Well, first of all, I have to thank the Clay Studio for having me here today. This is my favorite place. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be speaking to this vibrant art community from this space. So to answer your question, I was very fortunate. I grew up with parents who were both very gifted. My dad was a gifted musician. He introduced me to the world of sound and creativity from an early age, while my mother, who grew up on a farm, taught me the beauty of nature and hands-on work, especially in the garden. I spent my childhood playing outdoors in the woods behind our New England home, and often getting my hands dirty in mud puddles, which, as strange as it may sound, is the key part of my artistic journey. You'll figure that out in a few minutes. I also started performing at a very young age. I was dancing at 4, in piano recitals at 8. So both of those disciplines taught me the importance of practice and expressing myself creatively. Then when I was in high school, my art teacher recognized my talent for advertising design, which merges creativity with strategy and communication. That moment marked a turning point and made me realize I could combine my passion for creativity with a practical career. I've always been really practical. So when the time came to choose a path, making the brave decision to pursue a life in art, it felt natural. Art has always been a constant thread in my life. It's where I find peace, joy, and expression. I feel deeply connected to it because it brings me harmony. That's why I chose it, and I've never looked back. So about this practical stuff, I pursued commercial art to support myself from the start. At Moore College of Art and Design, I honed my craft, began working with clients while still in school, and gained real-world experience that solidified my commitment to the field of graphic design. So a little bit about my current exhibition, which we're going to see in visuals in a few moments. The title, Furthermore, is actually a reflection on my college experience at Moore and my mission to explore various artistic mediums. The solo show is the second major pivot in my career. The first pivot was when I wrote and created the art for my book, The Afterlife of Flowers, a large format art book with pressed flowers and garden journal writings. Now, for furthermore, I created the majority of the work specifically for the college's window gallery space. Kind of thought of it as a window display. The challenge of the show inspired me to showcase a collaboration between my three favorite disciplines: graphic design, photographic image making, and importantly, ceramics, bringing me full circle to my childhood passion for playing in mud puddles. So just a final thought before we begin the slideshow. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'd love you to participate. There are no right or wrong questions. I may not have the right or wrong answers, but please don't hesitate to share your thoughts, because my work is all about communicating, and it's really important to me to have feedback and an interchange. So the statement that I've written for the exhibition is this. It's very brief. I'll share it with you before we look at the slides. Inspired by nature and the ephemeral aspects of life, my practice merges graphic design, image making, and ceramics. Through repetition, I create visual unity that evokes both harmony and a sense of wonder. So let's begin.
Sure. Okay. I actually have some questions, but do you
Absolutely
about the first question? But would you rather do the slides first and then I'll ask later?
Whatever you like.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about your childhood and your exploring your mud puddles, which is great. I love that. And
it's true.
Your teacher that saw your talent. I guess I want you to like just expound a little on the idea of what was it about being creative? Let's like focus perhaps in high school and this teacher. What was it that gave you? What did making art and being creative give to you? How did it make you feel, and why did it feel like the thing that you needed to follow?
Well, it made me feel really good because I could produce something with my hands. And I think at the heart of it all, that is really what gives me fulfillment.
Making objects, which definitely comes out in the exhibition.
Just like making stuff, we call it. But,
and your parents were supportive when you said, hey, I think I want to go to art school?
They really were. Like I said, growing up with music and the gardening, it was just sort of a natural transition to go to study art. And they were very much supportive of that. So I'm fortunate in that way.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Then just because, this also is so much about your time at Moore, do you remember the selection process for college? Talk a little bit about like, where were you looking at going? Why did you pick Moore?
It's an interesting question. So I grew up in Massachusetts, so I was really focused on New England at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a true story. I applied to a lot of the New England schools. I was not accepted.
Hmm.
They
did not see your talent, which is clear that you had. So your loss. Go ahead.
Whatever. I applied to Moore. I flew down for the interview and applied with my portfolio, the same portfolio, and they literally accepted me on the spot. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, it was just destiny. I mean, that was the decision that was made for me. And I knew they had a very strong department in advertising design. So because I had already set my sights on that, I figured that was a good fit.
Yeah.
So it really worked out.
How did Philadelphia feel when you first got here?
Very frightening. My roommate attended the reception that we had a couple of weeks ago at Moore. My roommate from Moore, And she was recalling how I was afraid to cross the street. Literally. Yeah.
So it was a big change.
Oh, it was huge. I came from a very small city in New England, Worcester, Mass. Yeah. So yeah, it was a big transition.
Do you think that coming to a big city and, even the idea of being afraid is like, it's also a thrill.
Oh,
when you're excited, you're kind of thrilled by something. Do you
Oh yeah, well,
talk a little bit about like the effect that had on you as an artist?
It had a great effect because that huge museum was lurking up in the distance. And literally right after the interview, I just marched up to it. I'd never been to a place like that. So yeah, it was really thrilling in every way to be in a city. It wasn't nearly as vibrant as it is now, but I've been very fortunate to see the progression of it and the arts community that we have now. And I was here at the very beginning. So I feel very lucky about that.
Yeah, well, Philadelphia's lucky to have you too.
Thanks.
Great. Moore made the right choice. Well, maybe we'll talk more about that, or other people will have questions. But we will now look at your slides. All right, everybody. Hopefully this is going to look the right way. Can somebody in Zoom tell me if this looks like the regular view or the presenter view? Anybody?
It's the regular view.
Oh, great. Thank you. We were just making sure because that wasn't. This is not the first slide, is it, Janie?
Well, it opens up just with my name, but we can.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Need to see your. Well, this is your graphic design. That's important.
Right. That's my brand. You can also see it, on my website, and my products.
So this is your sort of your logo
for
yourself. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Well, it's an asterisk, and an asterisk is just something that has been throughout my life a symbol that I just really cherish as being something that just says, look at this.
This is special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Great. Excellent. Okay.
So you might want to hit the video. Right. Yeah. Okay. So on the left, what you can see is actually my past. Those were the days in graphic design. I put that montage together very quick. I just wanted you to have an overview. The prints on the wall are actually a transition from my book. They are pressed flowers. They look like they're the actual flower. They're not. They're prints of pressed flowers that are framed under glass. And then below that are another thing that I love to do is design books. Starting on the far left, the black book I did during the early part of my career, the history of antibiotics. It's actually called Antibiotics in Historical Perspective. It's a fascinating project. It was done for Merck Sharp and Dome International. And I always say that one book working on that project is what charted my entire career because it was so much work of organization. So
it would taught you a lot.
It really did. It taught me how to organize, which is so important.
I mean, I still am trying to learn.
And then to the right
is
the open, shows you The Afterlife of Flowers, the book that Jen mentioned. And on the top right is an offshoot from the book, from my pillow collection, which they found a way, it was incredible. The manufacturer of the pillow found a way to translate my images in yarn. So the digitally woven tapestry pillows.
Oh, so that's not just a photographic print on the pillow.
No, it's tapestry.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. All across the US and Canada.
Like in department stores.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. No, one more.
Oh,
there we go.
There we go. So now we're entering the gallery space, and I show it this way as a montage because on the bottom left, you can see a row of cards. So I was able to take the graphic design background that I had to promote myself, essentially. So there are cards on the left, and then on the right, I designed a little brochure for the exhibition. And then above that, you're seeing, and you might want to play that video on the right. So you're seeing glimpses of the first display that you get to at the gallery. On the right, what you're seeing is a composition of, it's actually grass growing out of snow in the winter that I then made into a very large canvas, which is hanging at the entry. And those ceramic pieces that you see, I believe, complement nicely the work. So I situated them just beneath that same piece because of sort of the black and white theme, and it's all inspired by nature. I do use, well, I do use the tool of Photoshop, I like to say, but it's also in the way that I'm actually capturing the plants in real life. So they're photographed with this type of a treatment in mind, and then they evolve as I'm working, with the software.
Yeah.
It's kind of a multifaceted process. And then that particular piece, I don't know if I mentioned, it's printed on canvas, which I really believe enhanced the image because it has that texture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So the question is, can I print it myself on canvas, or do I have to send it out to do? I was just explaining to someone downstairs here at the clay studio that a long time ago I decided that I needed to have a team to do this type of work that's very large, a team with very high level equipment, which I have had from my experience in graphic design. So the answer is I do sometimes farm parts of it out to be able to.
Yeah, printing on canvas is a very specialized thing.
Extremely, yeah.
I like what you said about using Photoshop as a tool.
Yeah.
It's like any other, I mean, a pottery wheel is a tool. All of
Just a
these things
tool.
are tools that you
Exactly.
can use in concert.
People often think, oh, she photoshopped it, so it just happened. Well, no, it's just a tool.
It's just like the 3D printers.
Exactly.
Right? Like those
Same
are,
thing.
you have to really know what you want to do and learn how to use the system. And
Exactly.
Okay.
This composition, where was the original photograph? Like, what did it grow from?
Which composition?
The grass.
Oh, that's what I was saying. It's just winter.
Blades of
It's just grass growing out of snow. Yes. Oh, absolutely. There always is. I do, but I don't have it to show.
Oh, I mean, you can see where it repeats.
You
kind
can
of.
see if you go visit it at the gallery. Sure.
Oh, can you tell when you're?
You can look close and kind of see what's in there.
I think it's pretty fascinating to stare at it and think like, okay, was this blade of grass coming this way? And then you see
Right.
a mirror image of it over there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I would never have said blades of grass. I didn't. Isn't that great
Good.
when you can't figure it out? That's
And it's designed to be restful. I mean, there's something, it's been all throughout ancient art that the repetition of a design actually causes you to be calmer and more restful if you spend time looking at it. So that's one of the reasons that I tend to do a lot of that in my work, because through my process, it's calming me. And then there's the hope that someone else will have that experience when they look at it. So now we're in the gallery, and this looks very small, but it isn't. In front, the large circle, for those who haven't seen it, is comprised of clay knots. I call it love knots because throughout history, knots have represented love through very many cultures. And that's what I hope to do with my work, is to have people enjoy it, to feel the love that is in it, that I want to communicate. So this piece is actually 7 foot by 7 foot. The diameter of it is 7 feet. And there are some close-ups of it that we'll see. So To the left, I don't know if you can see the little squares. That is a whole separate project that is also connected to the clay work insofar as it is, if those of you who follow me on Instagram know that I record my daily wanderings throughout the city, and I call this section, which we'll see again in another slide, crack gardens, because I love to look at the little cracks in the pavement. And what's now literally the first day of spring, you're going to start to see little blades of grass coming up. And that just absolutely thrills me. So one of the other things I want to mention is this particular, the photograph on the left is showing you the challenge that I set for myself to design the gallery space. So by isolating the far wall is not ever like that. I chose to paint the sides gray to emphasize the square, which then emphasizes the circle. It's just a design display tactic.
Yeah. And it makes it look like a separate wall almost. But it's,
Exactly.
That was dimensional.
Good. That was the intent. And it's actually the two pieces, the four pieces on either side of the knots we'll see in close up. So why don't we?
Oh, and there's Celia.
Of course, yes. But you will see people from the clay
Oh,
studio.
there's Janice.
Yep. And yeah.
Other people.
So on the far left, you can see a little bit more detail of the love knots that, you know, like any sculpture on a wall has to be experienced, I believe, from every different direction. So you've got the frontal view and then also the side view, which gives a lot of texture on a wall. And I'm showing this with the people in it because for me, that's the joy of it all, is the fact that at last all the work's together, communicating, and the work is communicating with the people. Very important to me.
You watched you make.
Yeah. I'm really glad you asked that question. I didn't make any.
Extra, in case you didn't hear the question.
Yeah, they sometimes. I did not make any extras because they are so labor intensive to make. I didn't have any other extras in me. And I just knew that, yeah, installation day was very tense.
Just got that email.
Well,
So we're having a conversation over here about how many extra pieces or not that Janie made. I was wondering about the glazing. Did you when you made them, were you already thinking about the color variation, or was that something you decided afterwards?
well, that's one of the reasons why I transitioned into clay work, was to try to leave behind some of that obsessive planning. But as it turns out, I had to bring that back full circle in getting this whole exhibition together. So there I was right back in it. But yeah, I mean, I do think about color as I'm making them, but when I'm working in clay, I tend to think of it compartmentalized. The joy was honestly for me in making them out of clay. And then once I get to the glaze room, that's just a whole new project that begins down there. So in the glaze room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I show the photograph on the right because it gives you a little bit of an idea of the scale. It's very hard when you see artwork, you know, online or digitally to understand the full scale of it. Yeah.
It's a good thing you had a second person there too.
Exactly.
We're not all the same scale.
And that second person is in the room with you.
Hi, Don.
How thrilling is that? Yeah.
For friend,
Exactly.
for scale.
So here is what I was referring to a moment ago. On the left, you're seeing what I call clay paintings, because these originate as photographs of the clay work that I then use to make these composites that are, they end up being, they're like paintings really, because I print them on very high grade watercolor paper that is then mounted to wood.
Mm.
And I thought that these were the perfect complement to the actual sculptural knots because they're a little bit more subdued. I had to use something that wasn't going to compete with the actual ceramic love knots.
Mhm.
That was my logic for that. And then as you travel to the right, you're actually seeing them in situ, the clay paintings. And then to the right of those are vessels. It's hard to tell in the photograph, but they're actually mounted inside black wooden boxes to emphasize the sculptural aspect of those. And then to the far right, which we'll see a little bit better in the next slide, are composites of plants in nature, which are considered the same way as the first one we spoke about, the black and white one, but these are up close and it's hard to show again in a presentation, but some of them you can even see the dew on the plants when you look up close and so forth. And then in the foreground is the bowl that Vicki in the room here referred to. I call that one no watering required. And oftentimes, in my home studio, I play with the mixing of the graphic design with the clay. I take things and just put them in the bowl and they look great. So there you go.
That's great. I like the way also the three black boxes with the vessels inside them. They could almost be really, really high quality, vivid photographs. I mean, from here, I don't know, have the sense of like,
yes,
I've seen people use those crazy photocopiers that are like almost hyper realistic.
Like that could be the next thing. Yeah,
maybe. There you go.
It's very cool.
But yeah, and I love the play of sort of 2D and 3D that you're working. Speaking of 3D.
Speaking of 3D, 2D, whatever, D. So again, a close-up of the wall where the love knots reside. And to the left of them is a little inspiration clip because, again, all of my inspiration is from nature. And how often we look at a pile of shells. I'm surrounded by them in my studio. Those are the things that I love to be near. And that is a direct inspiration right there. And then for some reason, the slide is looking like very bright compared to the actual art. But anyway, that's the one I was referring to. Those are actual close-ups, very, very close-up, zoomed in photographs that I play with my tools to make these very, very thoughtful arrangements. It's sort of, I think of it as like a vertical garden, actually, on the wall. And once again, so a little bit closer up the crack garden concept. And then in the exhibition, you can see a little piece of how I displayed them on the floor, because in real life, that is how we're seeing them. If you look to the right on this slide, those are the actual images that we all step on as we're walking through wherever we're walking. And my goal is to bring attention to them because they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And the one in the center shows you in profile what the display actually looks like. So I chose to put them down, the photographs down in these shadow boxes, because it kind of makes them precious and just the way I feel about them. So, and above that is a poster I designed because I wanted to show that I think in that vein of, from my graphic design background, and that's an actual poster showing the different ones. I have hundreds and hundreds of these crack gardens. So
lovely.
Please.
Oh, I was going to ask if that was a book. No, it's a poster.
It could be a book.
Could
actually.
be a book.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Could be.
I recognize the bottom left.
Yes, you do. I made that here at the Clay Studio. So again, I did make most of the work for the exhibition, but then in the process, I realized that there were things I'd made previously that really, it was a sort of a revelatory moment that I had where I realized things that I had been making before related to what I was making now. And the perfect example are these pieces on the left where I had been at the beach and I wanted to I collected these shells and rocks and things and made the clay look like sand so that they were essentially in the cracks. So I thought that was a nice compliment for the crack garden concept. The two pieces above sort of speak for themselves too, because they are cracked and growing, kind of that theme. So it was fun to see that connection. To the right of that are actual crack gardens. To the right of that are the more graphic treatments, again, using clay. Both of those are both clay images. And to the far right, that imagery is actually printed on aluminum. And I've done a lot of work on aluminum. I really like it for the reflective capabilities that it has. And the work actually illuminates when it's lit properly. So it's a lot of fun. So the upper left, the far upper left, that's clay work. And I've done series of those pieces. I call them clay paintings because they're wall mounted and they stand out from the wall nicely. So they're fun.
Right. The aluminum ones, and when you're with them in real life, they do glow and have sort of a magical quality to them.
Yeah, they're really interesting. It's an interesting medium. So here we are back to these, just showing different viewpoints. Again, being relief sculptures, I guess you'd call them, because they're flat on one side. I just like the way they talk to each other and look inside of the black space, which highlights their dimension and texture. And close-ups of some of the other pieces in the show, not in the show. On the far left, again, is that display of the sculpture that doesn't require water. It's my little garden of love knots. In the center, again, are these clay paintings that I do hung vertically. It's sort of like a Zen experience, I feel, to be in front of those. And then to the far right, I've spent quite a bit of time also making hollow orbs in clay. And the one on the top right actually performs. And has a musical element to it because there are clay balls inside of it. And when you engage with it, it makes a wonderful, wonderful sound. It sounds like rain, actually. And I like to say that whole piece on the right is very functional because the platter that they sit on is a functional platter that can be used for serving.
Great. And then I can play with it.
I don't know if there are any questions, but we can move along.
Yeah, I think
we're getting close to the end. Yeah. So I had to end with this because I still have a mind that thinks in terms of merchandise and selling. So I make these products that are offshoots of my clay products. Those of you at the Clay Studio have seen me wearing them. It was funny, the first time I put on an apron that had clay on it, someone took a double take because I was, at the moment they saw me, I was making the clay, and then they saw me wearing the clay, and they were sort of like, oh, that's really, I don't know what they thought. But I have fun with it. And then on the right are tea towels that, again, are derived from nature. There are any number of products, and you can check them out on my website, my Instagram. So,
great.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, well, I have lots more questions.
Okay.
I'm sure other people do too. So if anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand or put the question in the chat. But one of my questions is, did you take ceramics classes at Moore?
I did not. And that was the saddest thing to me. I wasn't able to, because at Moore, when you choose a major, you're all in.
Mm.
And I didn't have a moment to explore ceramics at the time. But it was always my dream to do it someday. So 100 years later, I was able to try it and love it first try.
How did that happen? Where did you try it? And when did you take classes? Or?
I did. I took a night class. I was living at the time in the suburbs. I took a class at Mainline Art Center and fell immediately in love with it. I don't know if she's here today. Karen Sachs was my teacher. She's amazing. I took a class in hand building.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I did the wheel for 1 minute.
And you said, nope.
That wasn't for me. I think it flew across the room, actually. And I knew that was not for me. And just love hand building.
Great. So does that mean that from when you were playing in the mud puddles until mainline, that was the next time? Or did you do it in high school? Or
No. I never could. I was always busy working, supporting myself and the family with graphic design and advertising. And I did not have time.
That's great. So maybe talk a little bit about how you transitioned from taking classes there, then how did you find your way to the clay studio?
Well, that's a great story because my classmate, Janice Marandino, was one of the founders of this clay studio. And we've been friends ever since we went to Moore. I followed her career in clay. I was always very admiring of what she was doing in clay, still always thinking about it. So fortunately, when I moved to the city, I was able to go to the clay studio finally. You were at the former address. I took classes there, mostly classes. Loved it. And the rest is history, because during the pandemic, you built this place. And luckily, I was able to come here. Just a dream, absolute dream come true. Anyone who knows me knows that. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here. I tell everybody I know, everybody. And people say to me, well, I'm not an artist. And I say, that's not one of the requirements.
Right. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So it seems like community is really important to you.
Yes.
From the way that you have moved through this place, and you still have your close friends from Moore. So can you talk a little bit about how maybe the community at Moore or the community at the Clay Studio, how you feel like that has helped you in your journey as an artist?
Yes, it has helped me tremendously. In fact, as I mentioned, I was so busy working in my career. It wasn't until I published my book that I actually became back engaged with the Moore community. I did have my first book signing there to launch my tour. And that just brought me back into the community. In fact, I was able to relate more to the alumni than I ever did with the students, because I didn't have time when I was a student. And in meeting the alumni, it was just very, very, a very positive experience to understand what the art education has done for so many people. And then there was that common thread of the clay studio that once I came here, I was just blown away by this community and the ability now at this stage of my career to be able to be in a space and to interface with other artists is just a gift. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's nice from my perspective, I guess I come downstairs and see all of you making art, and those of you who are there almost every day, it's really an honor to get to work in this place with all of you and all your passion. And I think it's really important to note that you have people here in this room, people in the Zoom room. We had a huge room full of people at your opening. We're all cheering for you. So that was really
Thank you. It was amazing. Yeah, very, very heartwarming, especially at this stage of the career.
Well, it means that you've built those communities.
That's right.
Back to them.
Great.
So I have some other questions too, but I would love to hear if anyone around the room has a question.
All my friends are so quiet today. I
Okay.
don't know what's going
Should
on.
we, yeah, not the norm, the people that we know.
Yeah.
There's a chat thing, but it might just be, oh, someone was saying when you were talking about your circle in the square. That was good. Good
Mhm.
comment.
Mhm.
Oh, here's one. Um, Bravo, Janie Moore is so proud of all of your accomplishments. Beautiful exhibition. I'm curious, who are some of the artists that are currently inspiring you? Great question, Leah.
Oh, thank you for that question. I am actually inspired, believe it or not, by all the artists that I keep meeting on Instagram. You know, people poo-poo social media. There is that group, but quite frankly, I've found artists from all over the world who also are inspired by nature. And so I find that really, really inspiring and just fantastic. It's a great tool for artists who really, really want to know more about what's going on. So I don't know if you're looking for famous artist names, but I draw my inspiration from everybody I meet, whether it's here at the Clay Studio, um, through more, really, it could be anything that just inspires me, anything I see, but mostly nature.
Even grass growing in the crack.
Mostly nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, Diana, do you have a question?
No, sorry.
No, that's okay.
But I love how you're working. I didn't realize you worked in print as well, and the crack image is wonderful because I've also walked around Philadelphia and seen all those bits of nature. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you, Diana.
Excellent. Yeah, talk a little bit about your walks. How
Oh,
do you set intentions? Do you just wander?
Both. I walk, well, the first goal is to get exercise, and it clears my mind. I get my best ideas when I'm out there walking. I definitely love to walk the most by the ocean, but we don't have that here in Philadelphia. So I find my way over to the river often. Something about being near water just really cleanses my soul. And I'm always looking for these little reminders that there is a tomorrow, there are things growing, and it just gives me strength.
Yeah. Yeah, we need those little things. That's the moment of joy stuff that I talk about.
Yeah.
I think for me, I teach a professional practices class, so I talk a lot to young artists who are really thinking like, how am I going to do this? What is this going to mean for me in my life? So I have both a practical and a conceptual question. One is, how did you get the book made? Like, how did that come about? Just people want to hear that kind of thing. I think it helps them understand that it's possible for, lots of people. And then conceptually, I think I'd like to ask you what advice you would give to a young artist. So start with the practical aspect. How you got that book?
How I got the book made was I made the book. I literally decided. The backstory is that I was an avid gardener. I didn't have a lot of land where I lived in the suburbs, but every square inch of it was flowers that I planted and grew. And I started pressing the flowers and making these images that you see in the book, The Afterlife Flowers. I have a friend who saw them and said, you ought to write a book. So I had already been designing books and magazines for clients for years, but I never thought of writing my own book. And that's what sparked the idea. I did it and presented it to a publisher here in Philadelphia, Running Press. And sort of like my introduction at Moore, from that very moment, they said they wanted to make a book. So that's how the book got done.
It was something that you were passionate about that you worked on, and you went out and found
Yeah.
a publisher, and that they made, but then they said yes. So that's
But that is, I think, to segue into your next question, that is really what the message is for anyone who's beginning, is to really concentrate on what you love to do. And that just always works.
That's definitely good advice. I'm thinking, would you have any advice for Janie when she was at Moore College of Art? You could talk to her now. What would you tell her?
Oh, wow. No.
She did fine. She did a great job. We don't need to tell
I
her.
mean, she's still doing it, you know. I'm not done. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I love it.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? It's been so fun.
It's been great.
Janie, I just want to say I just really enjoy the crack gardens, and they feel like they symbolize, life finds a way,
That's right.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I love how you displayed them on the ground, because that's the perspective in which you find them. But then by elevating them, up vertically and repeating the patterns, it just transforms it into something completely else. And it's really, you found a nice way to combine your graphic artist abilities with your, organic clay artist, playing in the puddle little girl being, finding those little cracks in the ground. So it's just, I'm happy to see how it all came together in the end. It's
Thank you,
a
Wendy.
good feeling.
We're going to talk because you need to be my spokesperson. You really said exactly what I think. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Janie.
Doing graphic design because you feel like it.
Vicki asked if I'm still doing graphic design because I feel like it. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Mm. Well, yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, yeah. It's woven through everything I do. I have a very dear friend from Moore who's a painter, and through all the trials and tribulations of life, we'll talk to each other as friends do, and she'll say to me, "But I'm always painting." So I kind of say the same thing about graphic design, whether I'm arranging food on a plate or, getting dressed, whatever it is, it's there. It's part of me. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Feels like you might have a few more.
I do. Well, first of all, I really want to thank everybody very much for coming. This has been an absolute privilege to be here at the Clay Studio, the place that I love. I just want everybody to know that, my journey in art is about experimentation and finding new ways to connect the different disciplines, whether it's graphic design, photographic image making, or ceramics. So I invite you to see my show, because there's nothing like experiencing the art in person. We can show it, forever on a screen, but it really is a different experience. And the show, furthermore, is through April 26th. It's a reflection of the evolution that I just presented here. So I would love it if you could come. Let me know. Thanks. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Janie. It is a
Thank
beautiful
you,
show.
Janie.
I hope you all get to see it. Even if you're there when they're not open,
Right.
know.
It's illuminated at night. It's on display. Yeah. Definitely.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank
Janie.
you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.